Welcome everyone. Hope you are having a wonderful Monday. Today we are going to take a look at the news and announcements of what's coming out from Board&Dice in 2022. We did this last year as well. We will probably continue to do it the same way each year, where the day after Gen Con we take a look at the upcoming releases, some of which we may have talked about in the past, some of which we may have shared a few details about, but it's also guaranteed to be brand new things that you have not heard about. Plus we will be diving more deeply into some of the individual titles that are coming out this year. So hopefully you're having a wonderful day. Hopefully life is treating you well. And hopefully you're excited about some of the things that we have to show you here. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat, and I will answer the ones that I can. There are a couple of things that we either don't have certain details for, or that we will leave for later, a later time, maybe when it gets closer to release, based on a few things such as MSRP on some of the products and so forth. But I'm very excited to be bringing you some news and updates. I know that a lot of people have been asking about some of these titles and you want to know more about them, this is the one for you to watch. So, 2022 releases from Board&Dice. We're going to do this in a couple of different sections. The first thing that we're going to talk about are expansions. We have a couple of expansions planned for you, so we want to address those right away. The first expansion, hello by the way, Dutch Yoda, welcome. Yes, the hype is real. Hopefully you'll be excited about some of the things that we have to share with you. So the first thing we're going to be talking about takes us to March of 2022, when we will be releasing Mandala Stones Harmony, an expansion for Mandala Stones, which came out earlier this year in 2021. Mandala Stones Harmony will add, first of all, the most noticeable thing that it will add is 12 new stones to the game. These stones, they are going to be placed on the central mandala board during setup at the beginning of the game. As the game goes on, when people reach those places on the board after scoring that show the +1 and +2, you have a choice to make. Would you like to score those 1 or 2 bonus points, or would you like to take this white stone and place it on your player board? When placed on your player board, that stone acts as a wild stone that can be used to score when you're doing a color scoring. So in the example on the bottom right, you could either score yellow if you wanted as a color scoring, or you could also score purple, including that white stone in the middle. So that is what Mandala Stones Harmony adds to the game. A very simple expansion to incorporate into the gameplay, something that you can easily use while you're introducing the game to people, even those that might be newer to gaming or casual gamers, and something that is a very easy thing to add, and that will not significantly increase either the length or the complexity of the game. So we're very excited about that. And of course, these stones are going to be the same quality as those that you are familiar with from the base game. Also in March, we have something called the Board&Dice loot box, and as you will notice, there is a number 1 there. This will be the first loot box. The plan is to release more of these as time goes by, and these are filled with content for a lot of the games that you know and love. One of the things that this will contain are 6 expert challenges for Teotihuacan City of Gods. Now, some of these you may have been familiar with. We have released them. We have released 4 of them separately in the past in PDF format. These will be a nice booklet that is printed and that is included with in this box. So those will be the 6 expert challenges. Now, what do these add to the game, you might say? Well, first of all, I want to reiterate the fact that we have previously stated many times that we are not going to be releasing additional components and gameplay content in that way. There will be no new tiles. There are no new wooden pieces or tokens or anything. These are basically things that allow you to play the game using whatever you have. In many cases, some of these challenges can be used without even having all of the expansions, but they certainly are challenges that can be used that support all of the expansions that have been released. Typically, they will introduce a new setup for the game, new ways of playing the game, sometimes new scenarios, perhaps a couple of simple rules that change how you approach the game, and will have a significant impact on how the game feels without adding any other rules or overhead, no new components or anything. Basically, you can take the game that you already know and love, you can set it up, you can use these challenges to focus on certain aspects of the game, whether it be a scenario setup that says that the pyramid is already built at the start of the game and you have other avenues of pursuing victory points. There are other ones that focus more heavily on temple advancements, or ones that focus on the collection of masks and so forth. So we're very excited about these. They have been very well received in the past. So there will be a booklet containing these 6 expert challenges in the box. In addition to that, for Tekenu Obelisk of the Sun, there will be 3 expert setups in there. What these expert setups do, and they have not been released in the past, they give you new ways of setting up the game to either give the players a little bit of an asymmetrical start, in addition to, of course, the tiles that you, or I should say the cards that you're drafting at the beginning of the game. These setups will give the players another asymmetrical way of starting the game, a different way of drafting during setup, perhaps predetermined setups where you basically draft a bundle of cards and so forth. So very excited about these. That will be also included on a little booklet in the game, as well as an embroidered bag that will come in the box as well for Tekenu. For Tawantinsuyu, the Inca Empire, there will also be a small booklet containing 3 expert setups. Now, what do these do? Well, they do similar things to Tekenu in that they allow you to set up the game in a way that gives an asymmetrical or sometimes a symmetrical start to the game for all the players. 2 of these setups were used during the Tawantinsuyu Digital World Championship earlier this year. One of the setups is highly symmetrical, the other one is highly asymmetrical, and then there's a third one as well that was not used during the championship. One thing that is really interesting is that they will create a new way for you to approach the game, where you either know that everyone has the same balance set up at the beginning of the game, where you absolutely must outplay the other players. There will be no area where you can blame that on the luck or the outcome of the order in which things are taken. You must outmaneuver your opponents in order to win. The other setup is one that is highly asymmetrical, where basically the players are receiving, during the setup of the game, they're receiving things that are very strongly supporting one of really 5 different main strategies in the game, and where from the start you know that you're off to a good beginning. These ones the setups were very well received during the championship. One thing that is funny is that during the semifinals, for example, we had one of each basically seat at the table that won their table, and it was very exciting to see the different ways that the strategy and tactics were employed during the game. Genway, welcome as well. Thank you for stopping by in the chat. No, you have not missed much yet. We just talked about, prior to this screen, about the Mandala Stones Harmony expansion that will come out in March. All right, so on with the loot box. We have, in addition to these 3 things, because there will be more things that will go in this loot box, we will have, speaking of Mandala Stones, 4 fancy scoring markers. These are basically screen printed wooden markers that each player will get, that will replace the plain ones that you get, as well as a first player marker that you can use in the game to indicate the first player, just so that you know who will be taking essentially the last turn, since everyone is getting an equal number of turns. Additionally, for Origins First Builders, which is our Gen Con premiere, although because of logistics and such, it is not available yet, but it will be available early November. We will have 2 things included for Origins First Builders. The first one is Ophiuchus, the 13th zodiac sign. So as you know, there are 12 zodiac cards in the game. This one adds the 13th zodiac with a new and exciting ability on there as well. There will also be a small module called the Voice. The Voice introduces and adds a number of cards during the game, one of which is used during setup, that basically give an ability to the weaker speaker dice during the game. The speaker dice are the white dice that you can draft when taking certain actions, and normally players will pursue the higher numbered one, because it's generally just better to have a higher valued one, especially because it's for speaker dice, because their color does not matter. Well, this will give you an incentive to draft the 2 or 3 value dice, because they come with special abilities. That makes this a much more interesting choice. Small change to the game, but something that will continue to enrich and enhance the experience for that game. Next up, we will have a module also for Zapotec. Zapotec is a game that will release in November this year, and as a reminder, it will be available through retail and distribution channels as normal in most parts of the world. However, in North America, Zapotec will be available exclusively through Board Game Geek, through their Geek Shop, until March of 2022, when Zapotec will also then go into retail at that point. The quick start module for Zapotec are basically cards that the players are dealt at the beginning of the game. You choose one of them to use that will basically give you a small bonus in addition to your normal setup. And while on the surface this might seem like it is just a small little addition to the game, this will still allow you from turn 1 to have a little bit more control over your actions. It will be possible, depending on which quick start card you decide to begin with, it will be possible for you to potentially perform a weaker or smaller capital action even on your first turn. So a very simple thing to add to the game. It just changes a single step during setup, but something that will also be fun and enhance and enrich the experience for Zapotec. And finally, for this loot box, there will be a QR code included that will take you to immersive audio introductions for each of the games in the Escape Tales series. These are basically professionally recorded voiceover introductions of each of the games. So you know how at the beginning of each storybook there's an introduction. Well, these are now read by professionals, so that will give you a more immersive introduction into each of those games as you play them. So these are all the things that are included in loot box number 1, and like I said, there is a clear indication that there will be future loot boxes. This is just the beginning of it, and we're very excited about some of these things that are, even though they are smaller addition, but combined they pack a significant punch, and also they are not individually without having an impact on the game that you are playing them with. So very excited about these, both the different setups for people that are familiar with games that have been out for a while, as well as some of the small modules. Even though they're just a couple of cards, these will also have a positive impact on the game as you play them. All right, next up, expansion-wise, this takes us to August of 2022. And while I do not have a box cover that is basically the final one, I think you will get where we are headed with this cover here. Yes, there will be an expansion for Tawantinsuyu, the Golden Age. This expansion is going to explode with some very exciting content, hence the image right there. There are 4 modules in the game. Way of the Sun, which introduces alternate Sun Temple layouts. So the Sun Temple is a track that you can advance on for both immediate effects as well as victory points during each of the festivals, and more victory points at the end of the game if you have reached some of the topmost steps on that temple. These alternate layouts will just be new ways for you to use that temple, and that will have then an impact on how you play the game and your plans for the turns as you take your actions. The next module is the Vassals of the Inca, which introduces a new secondary action. The secondary action is, of course, something that you can do if you're not placing a worker. There were previously 4 secondary actions. One of them which was to draw more god cards. There was one to recruit from the nomads. There was one to move your high priest and perform that action. There's now and training as well, where you could draw army cards, draw 2 of them and discarding 1 of them. This is now a new secondary action that you can take, so that will give you more options to think about. Again, very easy to introduce and add to the game, but something that will also be definitely having an impact on your choices as you play the game. Then we have the Nobles and Newcomers module. This is probably the largest one, and it has quite a bit of an impact on gameplay. One, it introduces a new type of building. So previously there were two types of buildings, production buildings and passive buildings. The passive buildings gave you some kind of ongoing effect during the game. This new building type will also have an impact on the game as you play it, particularly when it comes to regions that you are conquering with your soldiers and with your armies. There's also a new type of worker called the Newcomer. The Newcomers, they are dual colored. So that is exciting to see the impact that that will have on gameplay, because now they are two colors. So that will definitely have an impact on your choices as you're placing the workers and even when you recruit them. And then finally, there will be more passive buildings for Tawantinsuyu as well. So there'll be a number of those included in this module. Finally, the Pachamama, which is an improved and streamlined solo opponent. So this one, of course, first of all, it integrates some of these new actions and options that are introduced in the expansion, and in general it has also been improved and streamlined to function really well for the game, so that way if this is a game that you know and love, you will have the opportunity to try out this new solo opponent. That should also be an exciting addition to the game. It's also exciting to see that people are happy about this in the chat. Gotta love some Tawantinsuyu. Yes, absolutely, I'm with you there. This is a very exciting addition to the game. There was also a question about when pre-orders will open up for Zapotec on Board Game Geek. You should expect an announcement for that very soon, but I will, even though I will repeat this probably during a future stream, you should also stay tuned and subscribe to the BGG newsletter for more news about that. That will also contain information about the pre-orders for Tabanusi in North America, which will also be available through BGG. So that are the expansions that are planned for 2022. Now we are going to take a look at crowdfunding. There are a couple of crowdfunding projects that we have planned for the year. Of course, these the crowdfundings will happen in 2022. In most cases, the releases will not happen until 2023, or in some cases later in 2022. The first one that we have up, if you have followed our Gen Con special events and the streams that we've had during the weekend, you will have noticed a deeper look that we did into the La Granja Deluxe Master Set. So in January is when the crowdfunding campaign for this game will be going live. Of course, there's a lot that has been changed to upgrade and deluxify this game. All of the wooden components, a lot of them are screen printed. There are also things that used to be cardboard components that are now wooden, like the roof markers and so forth. The player boards are going to be triple layered, for example, so that you have both room on top so that you don't have your resources sliding around and so forth, spaces for the roof markers and so forth. All of those will be places that are basically indented on the top, including the donkey tiles, the places for your craft building markers and so forth, as well as then indented on the bottom so that the cards will slide in. And there have also been slightly enlarged the player boards just to make sure that the cards do not bump into each other. But this is an example that you can see there. In general, when it comes to the game itself, of course, there has been updated artwork and a plethora of new modules, content that has been in the works and been play tested and that has been planned for several years by both the original designers and several guest designers. There are modules in here from designers like Adam Kwapinski, Stefan Feld, and others, and they add and enhance and enrich the experience of a game that is already much beloved. Now, if you want more information about all the things and a deeper look into La Granja Deluxe Master Set, I encourage you to look at the stream that we did Saturday. And we've also posted separately to our YouTube channel where we take a deeper look at all of the things that are added, including the artwork, some of the other upgrades, and so forth to the game. But very excited about that. And again, this will be, the crowdfunding campaign will be in January of 2022. The actual release out to backers is planned for later in 2022. And this is a good question in the chat as well. Are sleeved cards accommodated for? Yes, absolutely. That's one of the reasons why the player boards have been slightly enhanced, just to take into account sleeved cards. Also, the fact that they're triple layered will make it easier to slide the cards in and out from underneath your board. So that has definitely been taken into account. Alex, you're asking from a retail perspective. In this case, please contact, you can either reach out to contact@boardanddice.com, or you can reach out to Irek, that's IREK, @boardanddice.com, and that way you'll be able to get your question answered. All right, now we are going to take a look at another crowdfunding campaign that will come in April of 2022. This is something that we have teased briefly, depending on where you have been watching some of the content and so forth. But if you have not seen or heard about this before, in April 2022, we will have a crowdfunding campaign for Nightmare Cathedral. Now, Nightmare Cathedral is a game that is using licensed artwork from Zdzisław Beksiński, who is a Polish artist and sculptor. He's very well known for his surrealist and oftentimes nightmarish look of his art and so forth. They often depict things that other people describe as the themes of nightmares and so forth. Hence the theme of the game and the name of the game as well. The cathedral, he never named any of the pieces of his artwork, but often nicknamed the Nightmare Cathedral, is one of his more famous paintings that he did. Of course, the game will feature a lot of the art from Beksiński. Here is a look at the main game board with certain parts zoomed into it. Again, the theme here being that the players are trying to either avoid or command the nightmares that will be available and that will come out during the game. The different locations that you will be able to visit, as you can see, they are all featuring the artwork of Beksiński, again with a very immersive theme and look into that. The players will be fighting for control, will be trying to convert followers and so forth in these areas, and will either try to cause their followers to end up in limbo or to not end up in limbo. There's a way for pieces to be devoured and so forth. There are also other things that you can compete with. There are a couple of different ways that you can win the game, but this here is a look at the artwork and so forth for it. We will definitely have more gameplay content that we will show in the future. However, I do want to show you some of these things, and those are some of the nightmares that will be in the game. Of course, these will be nicely sculpted miniatures. Each nightmare will be featuring some kind of artwork from Beksiński, and they will have different abilities as you're either able to command them or as they move around the board, and each of the nightmares will have an impact on the end of the game. There will be several of them included in the box. There will also be many other miniatures and so forth for people's shapers and other aspects of the game. You can build fortresses and so forth. So there will be lots and lots of things to talk about in the future, but just want you to know that in April 2022, that will be the intended release, or I should say the crowdfunding campaign for Nightmare Cathedral. Again, super excited about this. Very excited about, again, a lot of this this art very evocative and truly fitting for a board game. So we're excited to be able to bring this to you. Next up, we're going to talk about releases for 2022. These are neither expansions nor crowdfunding. Rather, these are board games that are coming out in 2022. The first one is scheduled for March of 2022, and this is one that we have talked about in the past, and that is Founders of Teotihuacan. This is a game that is designed by Philip Głowacz. And this is, although it is set in the same, obviously set in the same city as Teotihuacan, City of Gods, this is a complete standalone game. They are not related in any way. This is not a sequel. This is not an expansion or anything. This is a standalone game featuring very different mechanisms, which I will go into in just a moment. Yes, definitely. Solo mode. Also, if you, depending on whether this question is for Founders of Teotihuacan, Founders will definitely have a solo mode that is both by David Turczi and Błażej Kubacki, and there will also be, certainly for the other games that we are releasing, for the most part, solo modes is something that you can expect from all of the games that we are planning. So in Founders of Teotihuacan, this is a brief look at basically what the board would look like at the start of the game. As you can see, there's a central game board in the middle, which features 3 different sections. These sections, they each have 2 different actions that you can take. You can take either an influence action, which are the ones that are listed at the bottom, or you can take a build action, which are the ones that are listed at the top. Now, the things that you can build includes production buildings. There are buildings that will then help produce the different resources, wood, stone, and gold. In the middle section, you can construct temples. Every time that you construct a temple, you can also take a corresponding worship tile, and you can also help build the large pyramid, which are tiles that you can get from the middle, from the right side of the game board, and those will go into the central portion of your game board. The influence actions will either allow you to construct some smaller production buildings, maybe get a couple of resources, or in the middle, you can complete one of the worship actions that you have acquired previously. There will also be different, on the right side, there is basically a more generic influence action that you can take that will help you advance, and that will also give you the ability to swap out some of the worship cards or worship tiles that you have acquired previously, if there are some that you do not believe that you'll be able to fulfill. Now, if you look at the player boards, and I'll show you a little bit in detail, both the central game board and also the player boards. As you can see on the player boards, there is a worker, basically an architect, that will be on the outside at the start of the game. Everyone starts in a different location of their player board. The architect can only influence the 2 sections, the 2 quadrants that are the closest to that architect. So if you look at the player boards, you can see how they're basically divided into 4 quadrants, as well as the pyramid in the center, those 9 spaces in the center. But the architect, he can only affect the 2 quadrants, or that half of the pyramid that is the closest to where he's currently located. After each turn, the architect will move around the board so that there will be different places where you can construct and put down buildings and so forth. The different action places in the middle, players will be placing discs on those, as you can see in this example here. There will always be a white disc at the bottom that gives kind of a bonus action. So if you place directly on top of the white disc, now you can perform that bonus action either before or after your normal action. Every time that you place a disc on one of these spaces, you can choose either the upper build action or the lower influence action. The number of discs that you place will sometimes affect the strength of your action. It has no influence on the influence actions that you can take. However, whenever you're taking a build action, your power will determine the size of the building that you can take, or sometimes the cost of the buildings that you'll be able to construct. You can always place more than one of your own action discs onto one of these locations, but you can also stack on top of other players' discs, and the power is always equal to the total number of discs that are on that space, including the white one that was placed at the bottom. So as an example, if I wanted to construct a production building, if I am the purple player and I place it on that leftmost space, I now have a total power of 3, which means that I can construct a size 3 building. In this case, that means that I have my choice of either a size 3 wood production, stone production, or gold production building, and I can place that on my player board. I will show you in just a moment kind of what that looks like and how those placements work. In the central area, the buildings, the temples that you build, they will score victory points at the end of the game. Here, the size will be determined by the power. So if you have a power 3, for example, well, now you can easily build a size 3 temple without having to pay any additional cost. However, you can always build a larger building in this area. You just have to pay additional resources. So let's say that I wanted to build that orange temple and I only have a power of 3. I would always have to pay a stone and a gold every time that I'm building that orange temple, but now for each missing power, I would have to pay an additional stone for that. So that means that I would have to pay, if I have a power of 3, I have to pay a total of 3 stone, 2 of them because of the lack of power, and 1 gold. The different worship tiles, they will give you ways of either achieving things. So as you can see, the ones in green, they will give you ways to spend resources, basically converting those into victory points. The blue ones will look at what have you constructed on your player board. Do you have at least X number of certain buildings, certain types of buildings that will give you victory points. And then the ones at the bottom, they give you either things based on what you have. Sometimes they give you certain bonus actions, certain powers and so forth that you can utilize. And finally, on the right side, this is where you can add tiles to your central pyramid. Now these tiles, as you can see, come in the same colors as the temples themselves, and these will influence your scoring. Basically, within each quadrant of your game board, depending on where you have built the different temples. As you can see in this example here, the orange temple, it is now in the upper left quadrant of the game board. So when that quadrant scores, there are 2 orange temple tiles that basically are within that quadrant. Those will then influence the scoring for that temple. If you look at the upper right quadrant, there are currently 2 orange, 1 blue, and 1 green that would influence scoring there, but no temples of those colors, which means that that quadrant would not score any victory points at the end of the game. In the bottom quadrant, you see that blue temple. There's only a single matching blue pyramid tile in that area, but that will certainly influence the scoring for that blue temple. Now, as you can see, that blue temple also has a portion that is continuing into the bottom left quadrant. That means that this temple will also score when that bottom left quadrant is scored, and there's also a temple tile in that area, as well as a green temple tile with 2 green pyramid tiles that will influence that scoring. So as you can see here, where you build the temple tiles, where you place your pyramid tiles, that will have a big impact on the scoring that you get. The rest of the buildings, which also go on your player board, every time that you place down a production building, you will place the corresponding resources on the spaces that surround that building. That means if I'm placing down, for example, you can see in the upper right corner, there's that gray size 3 stone production building. That means that when it was placed, a total of 8 stone were placed around it. On each of the orthogonal spaces around that building, stone resources were placed, and then they are taken off from there as you're spending them to construct other buildings and so forth. Again, a lot of very impactful decisions, a lot of things that will quickly change during the game as you pursue different actions, as you have to think about which area your architect is currently able to influence, as you will be talking or thinking about what to do next, what's the most important thing for you to score, and so forth. So very excited about this. There will be a lot of content that we will continue to share about Founders of Teotihuacan, which is as it says in the subtitle of it, it is a tile-laying game with an action selection mechanism on the central game board, where sometimes you'll benefit from the placement of other players because that can increase the power of the actions that you take. However, by placing there first, you can also get certain bonus action benefits that will also be very beneficial for you. Again, there will be more both gameplay and more information that we will share about this as we are getting closer to the release. You will, of course, also have the ability to test and demo this game in the future, but there will be more details about that coming as well. Now we are going to look at August. And now I think you're going to be both excited and disappointed. You'll be excited because of what I'm sharing, and you'll be disappointed because of the lack of what I'm sharing. In August 2022, we will have a game designed by Adam Kopinski and Przemysław Fornal. Now, as you can see, I do not have a cover. I do not have a title, not because we don't have them, but because there will be more details that will be unveiled in October, basically around Spiel. We will talk about more details about this game. We do not want to spoil everything yet. There's a lot of content in this particular announcement video. We want to give you a chance to absorb that and so forth. However, we want to tease your brain cells with a little bit of information about the theme, which will be related to the Qin dynasty. This is a strategic Euro-style game, so if you like and love Origins, this is definitely one that you should keep your eyes out for. Some of the mechanisms involve worker placement, area control, and that is where we will stop for this particular title. August of 2022, find out more details in October. Just over a month from now, we will be able to show you the name of this, the cover. We will talk more about some details there. And because I also see Dutch Yoda in the chat, Dutch Yoda was asking yesterday if there would be any more T games coming, and I told him no. I lied, because in October of 2022, we will have what is commonly nicknamed as another T game. However, I will disappoint you again, because there will be more details that will be unveiled in October of 2021, just over a month from now, in our coverage in connection to the Essen Spiel Game Fair. What I will tell you, however, is that the setting for this game is in Europe, so that will also tease your brain cells a bit to look at what could this be. Yes, there is a city that this will be related to. You can put your guesses, you can put guesses on social media and so forth, and we will see if you are guessing correctly. Someone is saying in the chat that if this game is just pure meta and just called T, it would probably be fine. Thank you. I appreciate your confidence in this, but there will definitely be more things to it than just that. So, but yes, definitely get your thinking hats on. Now, yes, actually, here are some good ones. To London, to Berlin, or to Amsterdam. It could be one of those, but we will let you know more in October of 2021. Again, both of these games we will talk about in connection to our Essen Spiel coverage then. But I do not want to leave you completely disappointed. We are going to take a brief peek at late 22 and beyond, because in 2022 This is not going to be released in 2022. We are looking at 2023 releases, but I still want you to get excited about a Power Core game system that will be coming out from Board&Dice. Now, we will talk more about this in the future. Just want to leave you with a couple of bullet points there. This is a dueling card game, which has a very innovative addition in its mechanisms to the genre. So if you think that this is going to be exactly like the other dueling card games that are out there, that is not going to be the case. We have plenty of support content-wise planned for years to come, and there will be standalone sets that can also be combined with one another and played together. I know that some people may have been on the playtesting end of this and are dying to be able to talk about it. We ask that you keep the excitement contained for a little bit. There will be more details coming about this in the future. But again, we're looking here at late 2022 for more information about this, and then release dates in 2023 and beyond. And that concludes the information that we have about the new releases. Hopefully you are as excited as I am about some of these games. Again, lots of things to unpack there. Several expansions that will be coming out. A lot of them are just easy to incorporate into the game. We have Mandala Stone's Harmony. We have the loot box. So especially if you have multiple games from us and from our catalog, there will be lots of really cool things that will be contained within that one. Otherwise, I'm sure you can go in with some friends or share that way. But definitely things in that loot box that will be sure to please you as you get those to your table. Also, the expansion for Tawantinsuyu. Of course, we have 2 crowdfunding campaigns, both La Granja Deluxe Master Set and Nightmare Cathedral, which features the artwork by Zdzisław Beksiński, a surrealist sculptor and artist and painter. And then, of course, the game releases that we have in 2022 includes first Founders of Teotihuacan, and then a yet to be named publicly game by Adam Kupinski and Przemysław Fornal, and then another T game that will be coming out in October. Lots of things there to unpack, lots of things to be excited about. We promise we will share more things about this, and yes, hopefully you are as excited as we are about that. Yes, if there are any questions in the chat, I see people are guessing some of the names of whatever that T might be. I don't think that you will get it, but maybe someone will. It's definitely not something unknown. There's a chance that people will get it. In any case, I am super excited. Cannot wait to come back in October, in just about a month, to talk to you about these 2 games. Very excited. There are a couple of other hints in that, so go back and I think you'll be able to get a few clues to what the themes are and so forth. A question about the loot box. Oh yes, and this is important. I should not forget this. So first of all, the loot box. So it's coming out in March in English first. This will be going to regular distribution and retail. You'll be able to get it through the normal channels in English in March. It will be available in other languages a little bit later, basically Q2. So if you want it in other languages, we ask that you be patient with localization partners and so forth to translate some of these things. There will obviously be need to translate rules and so forth, and you'll also be able to, and some of the cards that are impacting the game. But definitely stay tuned for that. If you have questions about who will publish this one if some of the games are by different localization partners? Well, basically each partner will have the ability to either localize this into their language, whether they just localize one of the games or multiple ones and so forth. So there will be more information about that as we can unveil which partners are on board with this. But again, English will be available in March. Other languages will come Q2 and perhaps beyond that. We know that a lot of publishers and partners, because of the ongoing logistics issues, which also affects localization partners, some of them may want to hold off on certain things and so forth, but we'll keep you updated on that information as time goes by. But yes, there will be ways to get these. Zen Lao is asking if you'll be able to pre-order from our site in English. Yes, you will. We'll be able to send it internationally if you want the English version. We do not sell any of the other ones. We direct you to local partners for that. However, I also know that some of our partners in other parts of the world will also have some of the English language versions available. So definitely check to see whichever would be the cheapest option for you. It's very likely that you will be able to find it through our partners in Asia, Simon Asia, for example, that you'll be able to, or Come On Asia, that you'll be able to get it through. But again, more information will be revealed about this a little bit later. This will be available in regular retail and distribution, and any partner that also wants, in addition to, because we know that in certain parts of the world are very multinational, multilingual, so you should be able to get it in English locally as well. But if nothing else, you'll be able to order it from our website. There was also a question about the MSRP for the loot box. I do not have that just yet because we're still working out some of the production aspects for it. But we will provide that to you as soon as we can. We're trying to make sure that this will be something that will be the most impactful thing that we can provide, while also keeping the cost down for you, so that way, of course, if you own all of the games, this should not, cost-wise, this will not be should not be a big deal, because you can split it across the cost of multiple games. But if you only own a few of them, we're aware of that. I should also mention that in case anyone is worried about, well, how will this what if I want to split this up? This is intended to be split up, obviously, into the base game boxes. So everything will have either their own instruction booklets. Sometimes rules will be printed on a card or whatever, so that you can easily separate everything and just put it into the game that it belongs with. So that will not be a concern. You will not have to worry about having two things on opposite side of the same rules sheet and having to have rules for two separate games on that. So that's not going to be the case. So yes, happy to see that so many of you have been here. Happy to see that you are as excited about this as we are. There will be a lot more things that we will talk about and show off for these things as we get closer to these releases. Of course, some of them are still over a year away, but definitely we will talk about these things. Now, just as a brief reminder, so we just had, this is the tail end of Gen Con. Any pre-orders, so of course Origins First Builders, which is technically our Gen Con release, any pre-orders are scheduled to be shipped out as soon as we get the games, which we are anticipating to be beginning of November. There are still chances that things will happen on the logistics end of that. We will know very, very, very soon if everything is on track and if it's on time and so forth. We will keep you updated on that for sure. Tabanusi and Zapotec are Tabanusi is scheduled. It's basically our Spiel release that will also be coming in November, as will Zapotec, which is on time for November. So Zapotec we are not anticipating currently there to be any delays there. If you are attending the Essen Spiel Fair, we are air shipping some copies there of both Tabanusi and of Zapotec, so that you will be able to get them there. Those will be very limited quantities, but there will be some games that will be available at Spiel, because we're air shipping them separately from the factory. As far as the pre-orders from of these titles from BGG, that will be something that you should expect to hear more information about here in the near future. There will also be a promo for Zapotec that will be available through Board Game Geek, and this will feature alternate player boards. So basically, the new player boards with 5 different asymmetrical layouts for the players. Those are the things that we have to talk to you about now. Again, lots of things to digest. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for participating in the chat. Hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day and week. And we will be back. I will not be back. Normally I stream Monday evenings on my time, but because of the Gen Con events schedule, as well as this stream today, I will not be back later this evening my time for that. But otherwise, I thank you so much for being here and participating. Wish you a wonderful rest of your day. And yes, I will see you next time. Bye.